Well, you talked a bit about your father. How did your father feel about you being called a harasser or a misogynist because you supported Gamergate?
I mostly didn't tell him the worst of it because that wouldn't he I don't know how he would have handled it, but I did tell him, what did I tell him? Fortunately, I didn't get any phone calls, but I would never answer my phone. Like even my fiance, like he has the worst time getting me on the phone. So like that was another thing. Like I didn't get like a bajillion phone calls because even when I get like any phone calls, I'm just like, I ain't picking you up. So I didn't get too many in-person things. He did know that one of my friends, at least I think he knows about three who broke ties with me completely. He did know I got some very bad harassment. Some of it he saw because I was just like, I have to file an FBI report and I don't know what to say about it. And so I had to walk me through it. He did try, he wasn't quite like, oh, you should stop so that you don't have to deal with this anymore. Nor was he like, okay, well, this means you should double down. He was just kind of like very calm, which I think that's probably standard army dad kind of thing. Just completely calm. And he did try to tell the journalist he was working with, like, this is what's happening to her. She's a 28-year-old woman at the time, obviously not anymore. And she, like, I don't think I told him the worst one, which I had mentioned about the service I did not being valuable anymore or anything. But he did know that I was getting some pretty sexist hate for
Okay.
it. He definitely knew I had like the whole Zoe Quinn and thing, and he heard about how mad I was about like the Anita Sarkeesian the Hitman video because I was like, "Look at this! This is terrible!" And I showed him like Thunderfoot's video, and he became a big Thunderfoot fan because he's like, "This guy's very smart. He knows exactly what he's talking about, and this is the kind of thing I would be saying." I was like, "Dad, it is the thing you've been saying." So
What pissed
that's
you off
about.
about Hitman and Anita's video on
Oh,
Hitman?
okay, so one, she took the footage from somebody else. Two, she misrepresented it because she was showing the guy who was showing that you could move the hooker to the thing, but it was like a random thing that people didn't normally do because it went against the score. But she actually said, even though you could literally see through in the footage she used that it was detracting from the score, she was like, and this gives you more points. And I was like, what the hell? So I was pretty mad about that. And he was trying to point out, yeah, it's not even her footage, which that's not like instantly a problem. Like, obviously, a journalist is going to use other footage. Like, and just because she played the game doesn't mean she would use her own footage. It's hard to line it up, and it's fine to like borrow someone else's footage. It's not fine to do that, lie about it, misrepresent it
Oh, did she
as
lie
her
about it?
own, and then yes, she actually claimed all of the footage was her own. She did
Oh,
not credit anyone,
I don't
and
remember her saying it
I
was all her own. Do you have the source on
yeah,
that?
well, she also had them all like buy her the games so that she could put the games into the videos. Which okay, like again, you could still play the game separately and use somebody else's footage, but she misrepresented it again because she misrepresented the challenge and what it was being used for and so forth. Like it literally doesn't help the score, it goes against the score. And the person who did the footage said that. And when now she didn't issue the takedown, I think we're not 100% sure because like this goes to back to the YouTube problem. Like anybody can issue takedowns and it's not necessarily who says it is or it belongs to. So takedown footage was issued against them for their own footage
Against who? Oh, okay.
that she used.
Yeah, again, I
And
don't.
so we don't think it was her who did it because that just seems unnecessary drama and not her style. She's never done it with anyone else. So we think it was probably someone else who did it or maybe like one of her fans. We don't know. It could even like you can't. This is a problem that YouTube has, not her.
Yeah.
It was just the whole thing. I just was very mad about because
Huh.
it was misrepresenting the game.
Well, you said you were involved with ComicsGate. What was that about?
Yes. Okay, ComicsGate is basically so most people. I'm going to tell you how the anti-ComicsGate views it. Bunch of anti-SJWs are mad that comics are too woke and liberal, and they just want it to be right-wing fluff pieces that puff up their nationalism and stuff. Okay, now obviously that is not the case, or that stupid Vox Populi comic would have gone fantastically well because everyone would have gotten what they wanted, and instead it flopped because it was terrible, and it should have flopped because it's fucking terrible. So what Comicsgate really is just comic publishers have no fucking idea what comic buyers want to read. And they're not listening to their buyers. And the middleman isn't listening to the buyers either. And the middleman being like reviewers, comic the writers, comic promoters, and when it comes back, and then you always get the harassment angle of women and things. Like, again, I'm sure there are definitely probably some comic book nerds who are just like, I hate women in comics, they shouldn't be a thing. Like, even though women have been in comics since before comics, like when it was just like cartoons and all the rest. um so Comic Gate, mm, I can't speak for everyone. I work with some artists. I wanted to write comic books. I am writing comics now, is like the one thing I'm trying to do while I'm like getting my health together and everything. Uh the other thing is sort of character assassination. So you have a lot of things where they'll like constantly take Captain America and make him like a Hydra agent instead. And they'll take, like, right now they have Batman is like almost at war with Catwoman and the rest of his family because they're all like, yeah, eat the rich. And he's obviously not down for that, also being rich and kind of having severe trauma from being, his parents being killed by
Okay.
someone who was robbing
Did
them.
you see my interview with Lisa where she briefly talked about a experience she had with a ComicsGate person that unfortunately was very negative, where the ComicsGate person seemed like they might have even been like a actually sexist, and Lord Nurgle, I believe, was in this conversation as well. Um, did you see that interview or have any
I
thought?
didn't. I will definitely have to go look that up. I'm very certain again that there are definitely sexist comics people. Like, I haven't dealt with Comics Gate in I don't know how long, since before COVID, because once COVID happened, I was in a coma. So literal coma, like not exaggeration. So I haven't dealt with most of the internet stuff in so long. I will say again, when you constantly say something is a safe haven for like Nazis, you'll eventually get those Nazis. Like, no matter what, they're very hard to exterminate. They're like mice, and they're just gonna find a way. And that was one of my frustrations with constantly saying this. Now, my personal experience with it was just me trying to say, like, look, you could sell so much more Marvel comics if you just start understanding what the audience wants, instead of like just being like, you're going to fucking take our crap and you're going to buy it, and that's how it's going to be. I think it's a very supply versus demand thing where instead of following the demand, you have a lot of companies just going with the supply because they think they can, because they think like we have a monopoly on this. And I think that's obviously a bad business method. That's my personal opinion on Comicsgate. I certainly agree. Like some people in it are like batshit insane. Like I think I talked to one person who was like extremely pro border agents, and this was again 2019, like not even
Yeah, well,
now.
we're getting a little bit far afield.
Yeah, but the thing that like the thing that got to me was I had been trying to get people broadly, like via, activism and stuff, to notice there are children in cages. This is not America. We cannot be doing this. This is borderline. We are actually having concentration camps, even though we're not like killing anyone yet on purpose. There were people who die in the. I was very much like, what are you talking about? And they're like acting like it's like, war against immigration. And I'm like, it's children and they're drowning and you need to stop. And that was, again, 2019. So I'm not saying like, yeah, ComicsGate people, they're just like, they were innocent, good people. No, like,
I'm not saying that they're all
no, some
bad
of
or
them are
not. Like
definitely
I know
batshit
some
insane.
people who were involved in Comicsgate who were good people. I
Yeah.
don't think everybody was like a monster or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bringing
So
up
like
something
me
else
and my friend
in the interview.
who is an artist and does ComicsGate, obviously I think we're on the good side. And like I said, my issue is just supply demand. Like I want to be able to I want comics to be more popular than they are because I want money and I want to sell comics. And I think they should too, because if you're in the business of selling comics, what are you doing? And I do agree, like to some extent, they keep trying to market to people who don't buy comics. Like, that's not a winning strategy.